What are the examples of the what?
Well, we're seeing more property level information, right?
Yep.
So you mentioned the pandemic. I mean, I've talked to clients who they had investors asking about rent collections, right? Down to that level of detail, which you wouldn't think, right? But they were
Yep.
definitely, and there was one I presented on a panel about a month or so ago, and the one client said, yeah, he's like, in the beginning of the pandemic, because it tailed off after a while, but he's like, I had investors calling me every week wanting an update on rent collections, right? So the pandemic heightened an awareness of, what's happening at the asset is ultimately going to impact my return, right? So I
Yep.
want to know now
Yep.
what's happening at the asset, not after it's impacted my return. So when you talk about the what, we're seeing more clients, expand, not just here's my capital statement, you put money in, you've gotten money out, here's your return, but down at that asset level, operations, leasing information at the asset level, occupancy information at the asset level, um, financials at the asset level. What are the key financial metrics that are happening at the
Yep.
financial level? And in some cases, publishing all the way that out to the investor. So the level of detail, and it's interesting, it's not just the institutions that are asking for that. Sometimes it's the high net worth individuals and the other investors that are actually asking for a deeper level of detail. So yeah, the what goes beyond the traditional, here's your ownership percentage and your capital balance in the investment, which may only represent a fraction of a percentage or whatever of the overall pie, but what's happening operationally, and I want to understand what's in the leasing pipeline. I want to understand, is rent being collected? I want to understand exposure to, a tenant that I'm hearing things about in the news, one way or the other, or an industry. It's not just a tenant, but the pandemic heightened awareness of these types of organizations that are affiliated, this particular industry is shut down. I remember hearing a story about a client on the West Coast of the US that I think they had a lot of industrial properties, and turns out that a lot of their tenants in their industrial properties were affiliated with the TV and film industry, and the TV and film industry shut down for a period of time, and nobody thought to look at the kind of the trickle down
Yep.
effect of, here's some caterer or something in a
Yeah. Yeah.
warehouse. But that their sole job was catering to an industry that was shut down.
Yep.
So we saw some trends of this before the pandemic in terms of some investors. I think the pandemic accelerated the need for that information, and now I think that's here to stay. And then I think the other part of it that the pandemic also accelerated as everybody worked remote. What's the technology platform that they have in place to do those communications, right? Does
Yep.
everybody have the access to the information when that investor calls? If they say, well, wait, I got to go back to accounting, I'll get back to you in a week. That's no longer an acceptable answer, right?
No.
So
No, it's not.